Hello, welcome to Carrow Road, where Norwich City are still in the Premier League survival fight after a positive result, a 2-2 home draw against Tottenham, a stabilising result after that 1-0 loss at Villa. We all know how unjust that was and what a frustrating period this has been for Norwich in terms of their performances not getting the results that they deserve, but I think they probably will accept that a point is fair enough in the end today. But once again, as it always seems to be with Norwich, it was another dramatic game full of eventful moments and, of course, VAR. We're going to have to talk about it again. It had a big impact on this game, and it really does feel like VAR is not going in Norwich's favour this season. Not much has gone in Norwich's favour, although the luck did come their way a little bit in the second half in terms of the second goal, which was an own goal in the end. I apologise if you can hear things sort of rustling around me. It's got quite windy in Carrow Road since full time. So to just frame the situation a little bit, West Ham have lost to Leicester tonight, so Norwich have actually cut the gap to the safety position of 6 points, although West Ham do have a game in hand, which is against Liverpool at some point during the second half of the season. So a little bit of progress, and then we're back here on New Year's Day against Crystal Palace, who are looking pretty safe in mid-table. They drew with Southampton today, so that's going to be a difficult one. But if Norwich can find a way to win that one here on Wednesday, I think, if I can work out what day it is, it's that sort of strange time of the year, isn't it, when you're not quite sure what day it is. It felt really weird before the game to be at another game a little more than 48 hours after full time at Villa Park. But yeah, if they can get a win in that one, then they're very much back in it then, sort of regardless of the other results then. Bournemouth seem to be plummeting down the division as well, so that's a massive game now if they can get that win and then go to Preston in the FA Cup, a game which they can treat as a breather from the Premier League if they so choose. You would have thought that would be the case. Daniel Farke may see it as one that he needs to get a win from to sort of keep building momentum. I don't know, we'll see the other side of Palace. But Norwich had the big first chance of the game, 10th minute. Marcus Stiepermann, who was one of 4 changes to the team because of that quick turnaround from the defeat at Villa. Stiepermann, Hernandez, Vrancic and Jamal Lewis were the 4 players that came in. Sam Byram, Tom Tribal, Todd Campbell and Kenny McLean dropped to the bench, and Spurs also made 4 changes to their starting 11 from a 2-1 home win against Brighton, but they still had Harry Kane and Dele Alli as their sort of main attacking thrust. 2 of those were forced on them in terms of Harry Winks, Moses Sissoko being ruled out. Gio Lo Celso came in for them. Christian Eriksen, who's not a bad player to bring into your side, has even linked with huge money moves to the likes of Real Madrid recently. Juan Foyth came into defence for them as well, and Ndombele as well in midfield. So still a very strong team, but Spurs were very lucky not to be 2-0 down at half time. So as I say, Marcus Stiepermann forced a decent save from Gazzaniga in the 10th minute. Probably should have done better with the finish, to be honest. That could have been 1-0 early doors. From then it was quite a shaky spell for Norwich. They had to really defend as if their lives depended on it, but there was some sloppy moments in amongst it. Christoph Zimmermann, just a couple of minutes after that chance, awful pass in midfield allowed Ndombele to set Kane through, but Alex Tettey did really well to recover and just put Dele Alli off enough, and he fired over. 16th minute, Krul does really well to foil Harry Kane, gets out quickly and spreads himself. That was after a misplaced pass, or a misplaced touch really, from Grant Hanley, and straight after that almost Max Aarons had to make a really timely block to deny Ryan Sessegnon on the edge of the box as well. But 18th minute, what had been a very flat atmosphere, it was ahead of kick-off really. It felt like the Norwich fans were feeling a little bit defeated, like relegation was on its way. That's not how it felt by full time, thankfully, but it did take a little while to warm up, and Mario Vrancic, in a bit of a throwback to last season really, and him taking centre stage, but it came from Emi Buendia's really good work. He robbed Lo Celso in the Tottenham half. Vrancic dodged a tackle from Ndombele, and all of a sudden the chance opened up in front of him and was able to lash it right-footed past Gazaniga, and it was sort of past him before he could really react to it, because he had hit it quite central, which gave the keeper a bit of a chance to save it, but made good contact, and that's 1-0, and thankfully not too much to worry about in terms of VAR, although obviously they do check every goal anyway, but there was no announcement of a VAR check for that one, and that's 1-0. And then 33rd minute, you think it's 2-0. Well, the whole stadium celebrated as if it was 2-0. It was Vrancic again, out on the left, had robbed, I think it was Sessegnon, and lovely first time pass, just turned on halfway and just curled a brilliant through ball to Pukki, and the ball just held up in the air, looked like it was going to go too far at first, and Pukki took it on his chest and calmly finished it. The flight of the ball almost seemed to deceive the Tongan, and everyone's celebrating. Pukki's got his 10th of the season, his 40th goal for the club, 2-0 up against Spurs, brilliant. And then that fateful word that nobody wants to see pop up on the big screen, a VAR check for offside. And from what we've seen, it's a very marginal call, again, as they keep seeming to be. They're using these tiny little dotted lines to try and draw it. From the angles I've seen, he's maybe just offside, maybe just. He certainly was coming back from an offside position and was trying to arc his run to get back onside in time to receive the pass. The angles that I've seen have all been from the sort of side angle, so you can never, well, it's quite rare that you get a really good angle on an offside position, but as far as I'm concerned, if you've got to draw tiny little dotted lines on a screen to work out whether it's offside, then that's not good for the flow of the game. That is not correcting a clear and obvious error by the officials. Now, that isn't what VAR is used for in offsides, because it's not a subjective decision. You're either offside or you're not. So at the moment, they draw these lines, they work out whether it is offside, but that seems to go against the rest of the VAR protocol, which is to have a high bar to correct. The only thing it's correcting are the clear and obvious errors of the officials on the pitch. That is not what's happening with offside. It's happening in all the games in the Premier League, and it is killing it. There was a banner unfurled in the lower Barclay, which I didn't actually notice in real time, but I've seen on social media afterwards, which said VAR is clearly and obviously not working, and that it should be put in the bin. So once again, the chants around the stadium were, it's not football anymore. Fury from the Norwich fans as the goal was ruled out, and right through to half-time. I mean, I felt a little bit sorry for the referee, Kevin Friend, because it's a decision taken out of his hands. The VAR has made that at Stockley Park, which was Chris Kavanagh today, who was the referee in charge at Villa Park on Boxing Day. So Kevin Friend is overruled. He doesn't get a chance to go and look at the screen or anything like that. The goal's chalked out. You have to get on with it. And Norwich looked pretty dazed through to half-time, to be honest, but they did go in 1-0 at half-time. Fourth home game in a row that they've been leading in the first half. But they're now 7 games without a win at home. It's just such a weird situation. I described it on social media earlier. It's sort of like a state of limbo, that Norwich are playing quite well, but they're not picking up enough points to even have a chance of getting out of the relegation zone. They do start 2020 bottom of the Premier League table. So that took us through to half-time at 1-0. And then 47th minute, within 2 minutes, straight back into all the action. Christoph Zimmermann, really brave block on Dele Alli after a nice pass from Christian Eriksen, dives in to block the shot. But 55th minute, Christian Eriksen does score the goal. It's a decent free kick, but it comes from Harry Kane and Jamal Lewis tangle on the edge of the box. Lewis handballs it. The Norwich defenders seem to think that Lewis has been pushed into that situation by Kane, but the free kick's given. But then both Grant Hanley and Mario Vrancic have both said to us post-game that they have big issues with where the free kick was taken from. Regardless, Alex Tettey didn't really get up with the rest of the wall, and it did sort of deflect a little bit off his shoulder. I don't think Krul would have stopped it anyway. It did look a good free kick, but that's 1-1 in the 55th minute, and there was quite a lengthy delay at the start of the second half as well. Mario Vrancic got hurt in a tackle. I'm not sure which Spurs player it was with, but he's just shown us he's got almost cuts on his tongue where he bit his tongue hard when he was on the floor, and the physios really gave him a thorough assessment. We thought it was concussion at the time, but he told us that he felt like he couldn't breathe initially, so that was quite a serious incident. He did play on for most of the second half until Tom Tribal replaced him. I think that was in the 75th minute. So, like I say, it's all going on. Then Dele Alli 58th minute does get the ball in the net, but the flag goes up this time, so it is offside. That one's ruled out without the need for VAR, and that was the correct decision, thankfully. And then Norwich do get their bit of luck 3 minutes after that. We're only just after the hour mark at this point. Marcus Dieperman had been taken out in the flow of a Norwich move. To be fair to the referee, played good advantage, allowed Norwich to play on. Buendia plays in Pukki, who again didn't quite look on top of his game. A few bad touches here and there. Certainly put plenty of effort in. You get that's standard with Pukki. Didn't quite look as fast as he normally did, and his touch was poor. It had pretty much lost the opportunity, but then that little bit of luck, Alderweireld pokes it goalwards, it deflects off Serge Aurier past Gazaniga, goes into the net, and the home crowd make the most of it, because like we say, they haven't had much luck recently, so that was very welcome. That sort of levelled the scores morally, shall we say, but unfortunately it didn't last. Krul did well to deny a low shot from Christian Eriksen after that. And then Norwich were actually on the attack when they conceded their second equaliser. Kenny McLean had played Pukki into the left corner, and Tom Tribal was robbed by Eric Lamela. Spurs countered quickly. Hanley desperately tried to take out Dele Alli to start with on the edge of the box, did that, but the game played on, and then Christoph Zimmermann lunged into a very unwise tackle on Harry Kane, who maybe had gone down a little bit easily, but it was totally Zimbo's fault. Unfortunately, he had launched himself through the air, slid across the deck, and the opportunity was there for Kane to go down, because it's a defender sliding across the floor in his direction. And Harry Kane does not miss from the spot very often. I think that's his 27th goal in 30 games in all competitions for club and country this season. Blasted it to his right. Tim Krul went the wrong way after a bit of time wasting as usual. He actually trotted across to the home dugout to speak to Eddie Reamer about the penalty and got booked for that, but it didn't make any difference. Kane absolutely thumped it into the net. You can almost hear him hit the ball from up in the press box, and that's 2-2. And by that point, both teams had really run out of steam. There were 7 minutes of injury time, but no really clear-cut chances. The last big chance of the game, really, 87th minute, when Krul tipped over a Lamela shot and then did well to punch away the resulting corner as well. And at the end of the day, I think both teams were probably quite happy with the point. Would say that 2-2 was the fair result, although when you look at the stats, Tottenham had 15 shots to Norwich's 5, 7 on target to Norwich's 2, and they had 59% of the possession. And after all that, we feel it's a strange one in that it almost felt like a defeat at the final whistle, but it's not, of course. Spurs have picked up significantly in terms of results under Mourinho. They're clearly stabilising, trying to find out what they are under him. But they had won 5 in 7 ahead of this, and they had moved up into contention with the top 4 when they were 14th when they sat Maurizio Pochettino a month ago. So to hold Tottenham to a 2-2 draw, one of the top teams in the division, is clearly a very good result. And if they can stick another 3 points on that on New Year's Day by beating Palace here, then clearly that puts a completely different complexion on the second half of the season from how we went into this game, when it was just worry surrounding everything, and we were all concerned that the ship had sailed, really, and that if they were to lose again today, and then Palace is not going to be easy at all. Roy Hodgson has them incredibly well drilled and organised. They don't concede many, they don't score many either, but they are a tough team. But if Norwich continue playing in the way that they are going forward, then they're going to keep scoring goals against teams. It's just whether they can keep teams out at the back. You think that they've drawn 2-2 here with Arsenal. They drew 1-1 at Leicester. They won 2-0 at Everton. They've held Tottenham here. They should have won at Aston Villa. They are playing well enough to survive, but if the results don't match those performances over that second half of the season, then clearly they're not going to be able to get above the safety line. They've got a lot ahead of them to do, but it's certainly never dull around here, is it? And another exciting, dramatic day of football. VAR, the enemy again, really, as it has been in far too many games, not just for Norwich, but I think most teams of most clubs would say the same, that they are not enjoying the experience. So we shall see how VAR evolves. I don't think we're going to see too much of that this season. That's probably going to be next season. But whether Norwich will still be in the Premier League and still be playing in games with VAR is difficult to predict at this point, but hopefully a step in the right direction today. Thanks very much for watching, and Happy New Year to you. We'll catch up with you on New Year's Day against Crystal Palace. Head over to pinkun.com for Connor's report, Paddy's pointers, and all the reaction. and we will catch up with you soon.